After the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie panel at New York Comic Con 2018, we had the opportunity to interview most of the Funimation English dub cast about their insights on the movie and their characters in general. In this video, we'll break down our interview with Vic Mignogna, the English voice actor for Broly. Note that at the time of this interview, none of the voice actors aside from the English voice actor for Vegeta, Chris Sabat, knew about the movie plot, and they had only recorded lines for the initial trailer. While we won't have interview audio for this video series, our friends at Frederator and Get in the Robot kindly provided us with their audio so we could summarize and quote everything the best we can. Subscribe to Get in the Robot if you want to hear the audio version of the interviews when they release it, or if they have already released it. Now let's talk about the actual interview. When asked if Vic had taken inspiration from the old Broly going into the new Broly role, Vic answered, quote, "I don't know if anyone has told you this, but I expect someone has. I have not yet recorded the movie, so it remains to be seen what we'll do with the movie. Having said that, I played Broly for 15 years, back for the Broly movies, 3 movies, 13 video games, and even though this is a different Broly, I think the popularity of the character over years make people familiar with it." End quote. Vic also expressed how grateful he is to be playing Broly again because of familiarity with the voice, possibly being familiar from a voice acting standpoint, and a fandom standpoint. Another person addressed that this Broly has a new story. Vic responded, quote, "I'm really excited about that too, by the way, because the original Broly didn't have much of a story, so as an actor, I'm particularly excited about having an actual story, and Toriyama is making the story," end quote. When asked about the audience's energy upon seeing the trailer, Vic answered, quote, "When the cast started this 20 years ago, nobody had a clue. It would have never occurred to them that they would be sitting in a theater at Madison Square Garden with 5,000 excited fans. I didn't either. I've been voice acting for 20 years, but back early on, anime was much smaller and didn't have the big public presence that it does now." End quote. Vic went on to speak about the origins of the US Dragon Ball dub, starting in a studio in Dallas, but without nationwide casting calls. People would just bring in actors they knew until they filled the cast. Though Vic emphasized that it could have been anybody, but none of the cast could have imagined that they would be speaking about it all 20 years later like this, that there would be theatrical releases for anime movies, or that the fan base would be what it is today. Vic went on to say, quote, "I am beyond grateful to be a part of it because when I played Broly early on I thought, okay, it's kind of fun, Dragon Ball, fun. And then over the years I went on to hundreds of other shows, Full Metal Alchemist, Bleach, Naruto, Ouran High School, Vampire Knight, Pokemon, and all that. But Dragon Ball was always there, and there was always some new incarnation, some new thing. They just kept it alive." End quote. We mentioned Sean Schemmel's earlier talk of struggles with Goku's screaming, and asked if Vic was ready to face the challenge once again with Broly. Vic said, quote, "I'm as ready as I will ever be. There's a lot of strain to that. There's a lot of strain to it. But I love what I do, and I would hate to see somebody else play that role. When you play a role, it's your role. You don't want to let somebody else do your role. Even though it's a very straining voice. Anything in Dragon Ball, pretty much. That's the job. That's what the job calls for. I'll drink a lot of water, and I'll be very quiet when I'm not recording, and give it every ounce of energy I have." End quote. We said we were rooting for him, and to that, Vic promised, quote, "I will give you every ounce of my strength. I promise you that." End quote. When asked about predictions for Broly's relationship with Goku and Vegeta in the movie, Vic pointed out the phrases describing each Saiyan baby and said, quote, "It showed baby Broly, and up there was a little phrase, and it said, Broly. Remember what the phrase was? The exiled Saiyan. Now just from that phrase alone, you start to develop theories. He's been exiled. Why is he exiled? Probably not too happy about being exiled. So one could reasonably start to form some rough ideas." End quote. When asked if he thinks Broly may learn some things from Goku and Vegeta, Vic answered, quote, "I hope so. Maybe he's not exiled until several years in, but one thing is for sure. Any backstory should probably prove to be far superior to the story that, oh, Goku was crying in the crib next to him, and that's why he went crazy and wants to kill everybody. I don't know. It's a little shallow. But my understanding is, Toriyama didn't have anything to do with that story. So this is going to be his story." End quote. When asked if he thinks Broly is redeemable, and could possibly work with the other Saiyans in the same way that Frieza could, Vic said, quote, "I don't know. Somebody else asked a similar question, and I'm going to tell you the answer I told them. If you're going to tell any story on planet Earth, any story, you have to have an antagonist. You have to have a conflict. Where there's no conflict, there's no story. So if Broly is the conflict, if the conflict is with Broly, as long as there's a conflict, you have story. If they become friends at the end, or somehow decide that they're going to work together, no more conflict. Now you gotta have a new conflict. Now you gotta find a new bad guy." End quote. Regarding Broly's character, he continued, quote, "Is he redeemable? I don't know. We'll probably find out together in this movie. But that's where the meat of the story lies. It's in the conflict." End quote. At that point, we ran out of time with him, but we hope that this interview was interesting and insightful for you. If you like these interview videos, subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay up to date with our content. And remember that if you want to hear the full audio version, subscribe to Get in the Robot and watch on their channel. See you next time.